Quick recap. In the last episode, we saw Will finally awaken after spending days reliving the memories of his past and uncovering the true origin of his power. Will prepared to take on the second bloom. Meanwhile, the Bloom Festival was already underway, with many students being selected by the tower's factions. Just as the event was about to conclude, Will and Julius arrived at the arena. Unhappy to see them return, Kreutz announced that Will's challenge would remain exactly the same as before: defeat the fearsome walth ooze. Without showing even a hint of hesitation, Will replied, "Fine by me." After hearing Will confidently accept the challenge, Julius thinks to himself, "Is he serious? I still have no idea whether all that strange business we went through actually helped him gain any control over Wiss." Concerned that Will might be walking into danger, Julius decides, "I should lend him a bit of my magic while nobody's looking." However, the moment Julius attempts to act, a magic circle suddenly appears beneath his feet. The scene then shifts to Elfaria, who calmly declares, "Julius, I bestow upon you a blessing from the Ice faction. You needn't do a thing. Come, join us." Caught completely off guard, Julius stares at her and replies, "But, great mage Elfaria." Elfaria simply smiles and says, "Thank you for lending Will a helping hand. But now it's time for you to believe in what he can do." As the blessing carries him toward the Ice faction side, Julius shouts toward Will, "You'd better not waste all the time and effort I put into helping you, got it?" Will smiles back and replies, "Thanks for all the support, Julius." Will takes his stance against the walth ooze and quietly says, "Just wait, Elfie. I'm coming." The walth ooze emerges into the arena, and Will immediately declares with unwavering confidence, "Begin." Watching from afar, Seridwin smiles to herself and thinks, "A path within your blade has already been opened through my magic. You already know what you need to do. Now show me. Open my eyes to this new world of the sword." After this, we hear Will speaking within his own mind. "It's there. In my memories." As he focuses inward, he sees a single book resting deep within his consciousness. The scene then shifts to a vision of young Elfaria and the present day Will standing across from one another, both holding the same book. Will continues, "All I have to do is open it. Mark the page. Read that memory into my own story. Reach deep within myself and retrieve what I need." Moments later, a tremendous surge of power erupts from his body. Will raises his sword and declares, "Prime Pathos. Tiris Wiss Reloaded." Watching from the stands, Kreutz widens his eyes in disbelief and exclaims, "What?" Nearby, Colette stares at the sword and says, "It's that sword of light." "Wait, no. It's ice this time." Still unable to comprehend, Kreutz mutters, "No. That's impossible. He activated Wiss entirely by himself." Meanwhile, Julius comments, "Such power. It isn't quite as potent as a prime triggered by an external source." Then Carriot remarks with interest, "It appears to possess strength comparable to a mid-grade spell. How very curious." While Carriot was still analyzing, Will charges straight toward the walth ooze and speaks to himself, "I have to take my memories, my feelings, and imbue them directly into my sword." As Will closes the distance between himself and the monster. Watching from the stands, Elfaria whispers, "Will." At the same time, Zio breaks into an excited grin and shouts, "Now that's what I like to see." Meanwhile, Seridwin watches the scene unfold with a satisfied smile. She quietly says, "Wonderfully done, Will. Full marks." As the battle continues, the scene suddenly shifts to the spectator stands, where a familiar figure quietly arrives. It is Finn. Watching Will, Finn says to Seridwin, "I respected your wishes and remained silent while you guided Will up the tower. But even so, I never expected things to go this smoothly, Seridwin." He quickly corrects himself. "Oops, I mean Principal Cauldron." Seridwin immediately replies, "Please use my real name when I'm in this form, would you?" She then complains, "You have no idea how exhausting it is to constantly cast aging magic on yourself." Afterward, she asks, "And what exactly are you doing here? I thought only mags were permitted inside the tower." Finn laughs and replies, "That is a rather amusing thing to hear from you, ageless witch." Seridwin smirks before responding, "Is it now? Don't think I haven't noticed you working your own brand of magic behind the scenes. The dwarfs could never have acquired something as rare as a Wist gem without assistance. I'm assuming that help came from you. Finn offers no denial and explains. He is the new wielder of the fifth source. You'll forgive me for giving a small gift to someone of such importance. Finn then turns his attention towards Will and continues. However, he is still a vessel under development. The amount of magical force he can currently generate on his own is insufficient to fully trigger a reload. The Sword of Wis is simply compensating for what he presently lacks. He then reflects on Will's journey and says, Wis once placed a tremendous burden upon him. It turned his hair white and even caused him to lose pieces of his memory. But after 6 years of growth at the academy, a proud smile appears on Finn's face. I can finally begin teaching him what I know. Looking toward the battlefield, Finn concludes. Whether he will ultimately be capable of revealing the unknown future that Seridwin seeks, only time will tell. As the dust settles and the defeated walth ooze disappears, Kroot stares at the arena in complete disbelief. No. No, 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 no. This cannot be happening. His composure begins to crack as the reality of Will's success sinks in. Standing nearby, Charles looks concerned and cautiously asks, Paramount Kroots. The scene then shifts to the viewing stands, where a mage from the Earth faction remarks, he actually did it. He defeated the Mana beast. Meanwhile, a member of the Dark faction comments, his physical strength is one thing, but for someone akin to a dwarf to display magic of this caliber, that is extraordinary. Across the arena, Will's friends can barely contain their excitement. Colette cheers happily, while Lihanna watches proudly. Even Elfaria can't hide her joy as she looks down at Will. Meanwhile, standing in the center of the arena, Will notices his sword returning to normal and quietly reflects. My sword is back to normal. Clearly, priming on my own takes much more out of me than priming with someone else's magic. I guess using it recklessly isn't an option yet. But even after witnessing everything, Kroot stubbornly refuses to accept the outcome. No. I don't care what it is you've just done. You will not receive recognition from me. That is not magic. Immediately, Claire steps forward and objects. Kroots, don't you think you're being unreasonable? Without hesitation, Kroots answers. No, I do not. You expect me to recognize a being we know absolutely nothing about. A being that has never been properly studied. And you call yourselves wizard. Kroots then points toward Will's sword and argues. How do we know that blade isn't merely a magic item? The only tool permitted during the bloom is a wand. Therefore, Will must be thoroughly examined to determine whether he is actually following the rules. His argument immediately causes discussion among the factions. Arvin strokes his chin and says, well, he does have a point. A mage from the Earth faction counters. But what if we classify the blade itself as a form of mana? Meanwhile, another member of the Dark faction remarks, regardless of the classification, the boy is undeniably unique. We must proceed carefully. As the debate continues, Julius becomes frustrated. After everything he's done, I can't believe they're still arguing about him. Standing nearby, Sarissa calmly replies, that simply demonstrates how much of an anomaly Will truly is. Not even the high mags of the tower can agree on what should be done with him. Sarissa analyzes the situation. The only people capable of bringing everyone into line right now are the Magi of Under. At the very least, we hear grumbling from Kroots. But if Elfaria speaks up in Will's defense, everyone will simply dismiss it as favoritism. Sarissa sighs before reaching a conclusion. I need to get one of the other Magi of Under onto our side. Ideally before Elfaria bursts. Just then, a voice echoes throughout the arena. All talk and no walk, every one of you. Everyone immediately turns toward the source. It is Zio. Stepping forward, Zio declares, we need a simple way to figure out what this kid is really made of. And I've got just the thing. The announcement catches both Will and Elfaria completely off guard. Zio. Elfaria says in surprise. Zio points directly at Will and says, hey, twerp. You get one shot. Will blinks in confusion. What? Without further explanation, Zio begins gathering an enormous amount of magical power into his hand. Then Zio says, "Survive this, and I'll give you all the recognition you need." As the energy continues growing, he starts chanting, "Roar forth, thundering howl." Watching the spell form, Will immediately analyzes it. A low-grade thunder spell. A short incantation too. But before he can finish his thought, from the sidelines, Elfaria's eyes widen in alarm. "Will, run!" Meanwhile, Zio completes the spell and roars, "Jalja Saga!" The enormous sphere of lightning erupts with terrifying force. Seeing the attack rushing toward him, Will freezes. His instincts scream danger. "I can't block that. I can't dodge it either. Is this the end of the road? The only way I can possibly survive this is..." The scene immediately cuts to the aftermath of Zio's attack as the massive lightning blast crashes directly into Will Serfort. Watching from the stands, Elfaria shouts, "Will!" For a moment, everyone fears the worst. Colette, Lihanna, Julius, and Lion all stare toward the battlefield in complete concern. Then, as the dust finally begins to clear, a lone figure is still standing. It's Will. Seeing this, Zio breaks into a grin, while Elfaria remains frozen in shock. At the center of the arena, Will slowly raises his sword and quietly says, "Primed." Then he shouts, "Jalja Whis." The thunder itself is drawn into his blade as he stands against the attack. The spectators can hardly believe what they are seeing. One mage exclaims, "Now it's a thunder sword." Another shouts, "What happened? What did he just do?" Watching from the stands, Finn smiles and calmly explains, "He ate the spell." Finn continues, "The moment the lightning made contact, he primed it. He converted the spell into Whis and cut its force nearly in half." Beside him, Seridwin adds, "Of course, even then he couldn't completely negate the power of one of Zio's spells. He still suffered part of the shock. He accomplished exactly what was asked of him. He survived an attack that was nearly indefensible." Suddenly, Zio throws his head back and bursts into laughter. "You're insane, kid. I can't believe you actually survived one of my spells." A mage from the Dark faction suddenly points toward Will and shouts, "Are you all blind? The kid just took an attack from a Magia Vunda and is still standing. What more could you possibly want from him? What else does he need to prove?" Then Zio steps forward and declares, "You've got my recognition, kid. One thing is certain. You don't belong downstairs. Come on, Will Serfort." Just when it seems that everything has finally been settled, Kreutz desperately tries to regain control of the situation. "Please, just a moment, Zio. Surely you agree that we cannot undermine the sanctity of the bloom with such a slapdash method." However, before he can continue, Zio suddenly appears right in front of him. Zio's expression immediately turns serious as he glares down at Kreutz and says, "All right then. How about you go next?" He continues, "Surely the Honorable Paramount can do what a little kid just did, right?" A dangerous grin spreads across his face. "And if you can't, we'll all find out exactly how much you're worth, nerd." The threat is so direct that Kreutz instantly loses his composure. Taking a step backward, he stumbles and nearly falls over. Realizing he has no way out, Kreutz reluctantly declares, "I hereby recognize Will Serfort as worthy of the tower." The moment those words leave his mouth, the everyone erupts. Watching from the stands, Colette lights up with happiness. "Oh my! Does that mean..." Around her, all of Will's friends begin celebrating. After everything he endured, he has finally received the recognition he deserved. Then Claire officially announces, "Will Serfort is now eligible to join a faction." At that moment, the scene shifts to Elfaria. Unable to contain her emotions any longer, she suddenly starts running toward the arena. Seeing this, Sarissa immediately shouts, "Grand Mage Elfaria!" But it's already too late. Elfaria places one foot on the parapet and leaps directly into the arena. A moment later, she crashes into Will and wraps her arms tightly around him. Completely caught off guard, Will exclaims, "Elfie!" Holding him as tightly as she can, Elfaria says, "You did it! Thank goodness, Will." Tears begin forming in her eyes as she continues, "I'm sorry I couldn't do anything to help you." Will gently smiles and shakes his head. Don't apologize, Elfie. Be happy. You've been waiting here all this time. And I've finally made it. Then Claire clears her throat and interrupts. I'm fairly certain I already know the answer, but I should ask officially. Which faction will you be joining, Will Serfort? Without hesitation, Will begins to answer. I'll be joining Elfie and the... But before he can finish his sentence, a large hand suddenly grabs him by the neck. Nah. Everyone freezes. It is Zio. Holding Will effortlessly with one hand, Zio casually declares, Will's coming with me. The entire arena goes silent. And then everyone's eyes shift toward Elfaria. For a brief moment, she doesn't say a word. The shock on her face is so great that her expression goes completely blank.